I do not think that Wilbur Soot is an abuser, and I know I've said that fairly indirectly in the past, especially recently, but I do feel like now it needs to be said point blank.
It is on very rare occasion that I actually don't really want to talk about a certain topic. It, for the most part, I'm either not interested or it doesn't pertain to my channel, but very rarely is it like this is relevant, but I don't really want to go there. That's what we're doing here today. Now, the reason I don't want to go there is pretty simple, actually. I do think there's a lot to be said about the person we're going to talk about, but the way they make me feel is a cringe so entirely deep that I feel like my body needs to catch up after. And that sounds dramatic because, yeah, I'm being dramatic. It's not that deep. I can actually deal with a lot of cringe like most other people on the internet. So, who we're talking about today is Tyler Catastrophe. If you don't know who Tyler Catastrophe is, this is your last chance to not find out because I found out a couple weeks ago and honestly, I was better before I knew. So, quick thing, when I mention the cringe here, the cringe is by no means the most significant part of this person that we're going to be talking about. However, it is one of the first things I mention, mainly because that shit will hit you like a bus when I show you these clips if you haven't already seen them. And second of all, I think that the cringe is actually a very big part of the aversion people have towards him beyond some of the serious things which we'll get into. So I just wanted to nip that in the bud. Before we get into today's video, I'd like to thank our sponsor, ExpressVPN. One thing we should never underestimate is the importance of online safety. With ExpressVPN, this means having online privacy as well as data security. ExpressVPN conceals your activity from third parties by encrypting your traffic and hiding your IP address. This makes it so that your data won't be sold and you'll also be protected from doxing. For me, online privacy is central, not just because of the things I research and sometimes websites only working if I set my VPN to certain countries because certain websites block you if you're not from country X or Y, but in terms of the security of my own data. In the past, I've received so many emails, not just alerting me of leaks of data, but my data being sold and then used for a secret third thing. It's been horrendous. So having online safety for me is so important, not just so I don't get spam of like a million emails telling me X, Y, or Z about my own information being sold, but also for the peace of mind of being able to go online without worrying about clicking something and then having God knows how many problems. I like to log onto the internet feeling comfortable and not like any next click will compromise my online security. Find out how you can get up to 4 extra months by clicking the link in the description box below or scanning the QR code. For those who want to support my channel, purchasing a 1 or 2 year plan is a really great way to support my channel via ExpressVPN. Thank you to ExpressVPN for sponsoring this video. Tyler Catastrophe. So basically, there is this content creator that came onto my radar a couple weeks ago because I saw other content creators make really good videos about this particular person. So we're going to talk about who Tyler Catastrophe is and why he is in hot water right now. So Tyler Catastrophe is a content creator, quotation marks because that isn't his main gig as far as I've understood. He makes jewelry and art predominantly. That's how he describes himself. He has multiple videos on his TikTok where he introduces himself seemingly over and over, which I don't really, I mean, I understand to an extent, but just make one video and pin it and anyone new can just watch that. It's very odd because it's like almost every 2 or 3 weeks whenever he has an influx of new followers or new people just watching his TikToks, there's like a new thing being like, if you haven't seen me before.
My attention, some of you still don't know who I am. But luckily, I do! And since I'm currently in the process of using my art and jewelry as a means to move all the way from Texas to the UK, in the hopes of acquiring some variation of a global talent visa so I can continue my work, I think it might be time to brag a little. So hi, my name is Tyler Salona, otherwise known as Tyler Catastrophe. I'm from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, currently living in North Texas. I'm an accomplished lifelong musician, a published poet, an exhibited artist and painter, and I'm known internationally as a weaver, beadworker, and jewelry designer. I've sold tens of thousands of pieces of artwork and jewelry both in person and online. I've shipped to all 50 states, and 26 countries on 5 continents, including Antarctica, so far. I've done dozens of in-person vendor events. If not over 100, I didn't count. I've shown my work in multiple exhibitions, including an exhibition for Clara Luper, the mother of the civil rights movement in Oklahoma, as well as a solo exhibition in Denton, Texas that lasted over a month. And in just the past 5 years, I've designed unique, one-of-a-kind jewelry you can't find anywhere else. That's been worn for everything from weddings to cosplays, from TED Talks to fashion shows. And so far, my work has a 100% success rate when it comes to marriage proposals. All of my work adheres to very strict quality control. Like this pink and green piece that I designed as a fun challenge to match this Ellie Saab gown from the 2025 Spring Couture collection. And every detail from the structure of the weave itself to the quality of each individual bead and gemstone I use is held to a meticulous standard that I will never compromise on. And I have 6 custom pieces currently under contract for a movie that should be recommencing filming in the coming months. Like this one, that is absolutely full of so much amethyst. I've helped multiple young artists and musicians get their foot in the door and make their starts, and the respect and reputation I've worked very hard to earn, from peers, clients, fellow artists, event organizers, means my confidence in myself and my abilities and my work is pretty much unshakable at this point. And as someone who was born into generational poverty and started this journey with virtually zero support system, I've blown past so many personal limits, pushed so many creative and professional boundaries, that there is genuinely not a single person on the entire earth who could ever make me believe that I don't rightfully deserve to feel pride in who I am and what I've accomplished. And there's definitely no one capable of convincing me I can't go further. Okay, love you, bye. Can you honestly name one other person making stuff like this? If I'm not a leader in my field, who is?
So, why are people critiquing Tyler Catastrophe? Tyler Catastrophe made more than one TikTok where he refers to a content creator called Wilbur. And Wilbur is a content creator who is very controversial because there are abuse allegations against him. Tyler made a series of TikToks talking about his crush on Wilbur and the fact that he now is trying to move to England and people think it's so he can be closer to Wilbur. So a lot of what's controversial about Tyler is actually related to someone else. Now, like I said, Wilbur was accused of being physically abusive towards his now ex-girlfriend. So Tyler's saying that he has a crush on this person when this person is, let's say, not well repute at the moment, is the biggest part of the controversy, because you basically have someone coming out here saying, hey, I have this crush on an abuser, and then he also went on to discount the abuse. So let's start by looking at the evidence about Wilbur, and I'm not going to focus on this for too long because Wilbur obviously is part of this topic but isn't the center focus. So I'm going to show you a couple clips that are relevant, especially from Wilbur's ex-girlfriend, so you can see. So here's a clip from Wilbur's ex-girlfriend discussing the situation at hand.
He started biting me more and more over a period of time, sort of throughout the whole relationship, which meant I was being hurt every single day, multiple times a day, for all of the days that we spent together in person. And when I asked him to stop again, this time he said, this is who he is. He isn't going to change. There was this one time that he pinned me down and asked me to try my absolute hardest to get him off of me. And I couldn't do it, obviously. And he said something to make the point that he was so much stronger than me that I wouldn't be able to fight him back. He was going to keep hurting me, and it was possibly going to escalate even further. So I broke up with him.
Like I said, I don't want to go too in depth in this, not because it's not important, but more than anything, this is kind of the backstory, quote unquote, for why Tyler is receiving the critique that he's receiving. Now, in terms of Wilbur's apology that he posted online reacting to all of this, I think it's important we read it together because the way in which Tyler is viewed also is reflective of this apology, because if you take this apology and if you believe this apology, that will change people's opinions on you, obviously, as opposed to thinking this is a shitty apology. In the past week, a series of allegations have been made over my conduct from an ex-girlfriend. I want to emphasize that, although I feel it fair to offer my perspective, this person's feelings are completely valid. I've taken my time sharing this statement as I want to process and respond respectfully, and with the hope to gain a deeper understanding for the situation. During our relationship's final months, I regrettably became slobbish, disrespectful, and selfish. These actions caused a lot of pain to my ex-girlfriend, and I've since sought therapy to address these behaviors, making significant lifestyle changes to rectify my past actions. I've come to realize how much my past behavior hurt this person, but I truly, compassionately believe I have made great strides from the person I once was and hope to continue to grow and improve on this trajectory. The allegations of abuse, particularly in the form of biting, deeply shocked me. Throughout our relationship, I understood from numerous conversations and text message exchanges on the subject that this behavior was consensual, playful, and reciprocally enjoyed. I truly believe those personal message exchanges reflect mutual affection and understanding. Out of respect for her, I choose not to publish them, and I emphasize my perspective is not shared to diminish or invalidate anyone's feelings. Instead, I share in the hope that I can offer a genuine, fair, and relevant insight into my understanding of the situation. While I may perceive our interactions differently, I recognize that this person has processed and expressed feelings of hurt. I want to extend my sincerest apologies for any pain that I caused. I'm fully committed to understanding and addressing her concerns going forward. I hope my perspective sheds light on this situation without detracting from its message. I'm dedicated to earning and maintaining the trust of those around me, and I hope I continue to be held to these high standards I wish to attain and maintain. As you saw from the screenshot, this is from back in 2024. Most people did not like, as much as you can like, this apology, mainly because, yes, it looks like it was drafted by a lawyer, which, if you're a big content creator, fair enough, but this seems rather mechanical. This seems over the top in the sense of he's going really, really far to be like, I'm not trying to dismiss anything and I'm just trying to understand. And listen, with an apology, it's almost always a lose-lose because people like myself won't be satisfied with it, and then people will say it's fake. It's very difficult to give a good apology, and I think we've all learned that via some influencers we've seen in the past, Gray Hoodie and all. The thing that's interesting to me in all of this is that he addresses the fact that his biting, which is the main problem, he thought it was consensual. So he admits that it's happened, and he admits that he thought that it was acceptable behavior within the parameters of their relationship. I don't know what happened, obviously. I wasn't there, and I also wasn't following in real time. So I don't really want to give my opinion on all of that because I feel like I don't truly know enough. However, in terms of the situation at hand with Tyler Catastrophe, it's important to know that this apology overall, from what I've understood, was not well received. And from what I've seen from the reporting via content creators, nobody took this apology positively in the sense of it came off as fake, superficial, and overall kind of a nothing burger. This is the person that Tyler Catastrophe has a crush on. So for obvious reasons, this is rather immediately controversial. And beyond that, it is deeply parasocial, right? Because another fun little thing about this relationship is that relationship, so many quotation marks. Another thing about this relationship is that Tyler Catastrophe has a crush on Wilbur, and he's met Wilbur a total of once, and I believe it was at a Lovejoy show, because Wilbur's in a band and it's called Lovejoy. I believe it was at a show, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on that. But he's only encountered him once, and it was not a one-on-one hangout date kind of thing. So Tyler Catastrophe having this crush becomes more and more controversial when you add these layers of, okay, this person was accused of being abusive, now there's also this parasocial layer, and then there's the layer wherein Tyler has said he wants to move to England. And listen, move to wherever you want. Truly doesn't affect any of our lives. However, it is an interesting coincidence that where he wants to move is where Wilbur is. Also because I believe Tyler Catastrophe went to England once, if I recall correctly. Tyler Catastrophe has actually, to move to England, he's started a GoFundMe that now I believe has $16,000+ in it, which is wild. And on top of that, he's selling his jewelry, which is his main craft as far as I understand. And there has been a lot of commentary even on that, because it seems like anything this guy does online is just an issue by default. Let me read what's on the GoFundMe, because this has also been a point of contention. So he wants to raise a total of $22,000. He's raised $16,221. Hi friends, my name is Tyler and I'm a disabled transgender artist from Oklahoma, currently stuck in Texas. I've been given an amazing opportunity to move to England and further my art career, and considering everything that's currently working against my safety here, I'm doing everything I can to make it happen. I don't want to have to live in exhaustion and fear for the rest of whatever life I have left, and I'm hoping that it isn't too much to ask for. So if anyone is at all willing and able, I would greatly appreciate any cent of support that could possibly help. This fundraiser will help with bills, medications, updated documents, moving fees, plane tickets, and finding housing once I'm able to move. This opportunity means the world to me, and I'm hoping that once I'm stable enough, I'll be able to help others as well. May we all be as safe as we possibly can be. I love you all, and I hope we all get to see each other on the other side of this decade in better light. That's a little self-introduction from Tyler. People were already questioning, I don't want to say the validity of the GoFundMe, because he is being straightforward as far as we know. Like, he's telling us, like, this isn't for an emergency, this is because he wants to move, which I guess could qualify as an emergency, right? But it's not like one of the more classic GoFundMes where people need help with hospital bills or whatever. This is, as far as we know, honest about he wants to leave, he wants to move, he wants to go to England. Okay. In connection to this request for money, there is also the fact that people have found his jewelry insanely overpriced. Now listen, I have observed and I've heard from artists. Like, I like following artists on TikTok. My boyfriend is an artist. So the concept of pricing, I feel like, is a very complicated thing. I've never personally understood it. Like, how do you look at a canvas or a necklace and say, you know, beyond the materials you used for it, how do you say how much that costs? That's always something that has been difficult for me to grasp. And that might also be because I have the literature brain and not the math or science brain. The pricing of his jewelry became a point of contention as well because people saw it as too expensive for what it is. Now, I'm going to show you a couple examples just so you see why that is part of the critique. So here we have the Mushtrophy collection. So the price of this necklace is $1,349. Then there's another necklace, just to give you another example, that is here, and this one is $798. There are plenty of things on the website, like he makes bracelets as well, and those are like $29. However, I did want to show you the pieces of jewelry that people had the actual problem with. So it's not to say that everything is vastly overpriced, but these are the things that people were saying didn't make sense to them in terms of price. And honestly, I kind of have to agree with this one because, again, you're an artist, price things the way you want to, but as someone who has bought jewelry that is very similar to this by the very artists who made this jewelry, so not like by a third party or whatever, by the actual artist, I have never paid a price like this for very similar work. I'm just gonna leave that there, make of it what you will. Again, I feel kind of weird commenting on people's pricing of their art because I feel like there's a lot of stuff we might not know, especially in terms of materials. This stuff, do I think he's using fucking diamonds? No. So do these prices make sense to me? Also no, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't think this is the biggest problem we're dealing with. Anyway, let's look at some of his content, shall we?
I have had a crush on Will Gold since 2019 when I heard him laugh in the background of someone else's video and it felt like life itself leaned in to listen. Which is really inconvenient for me because I am very much a one soul at a time kind of person, so once I develop a crush, virtually no one else stands a chance ever. And at the time, I had just broken off a terrible engagement to a guy who didn't even fucking like me. And since then, I have only briefly dated one other person who was wonderful, but it didn't work out. And so in all of that time, regardless of how many people have tried and been interested in me, I have not been able to find the interest for any single one of them. Because I have a fucking crush on a guy I have interacted with once. And I don't even officially know his sexuality. That's a whole other thing. And I have tried. I have tried so hard to move on from this, to let it go, because I want so badly for it not to cross over into parasocial territory. But in like the 7 minutes that we spoke to each other, one, every time we made eye contact, I thought my heart was gonna fucking burst out of my chest and fly away. Two, I was so nervous that my head just shut off and my mouth had a mind of its own. And anyone who knows me and has ever met me knows that I don't get nervous about people. What the hell was that? Three, he somehow managed to make me want to write music again, something I have not done since my last band broke up in 2019 and I got hit by a car and couldn't sing anymore. And I can sing again now. It took several years, but I got it back because I'm amazing. But how dare you pull my spark back out from underneath the ashes I spent years burying it under because it hurt too much to think about. In like 2 sentences. It's rude. And 4, he failed to take a selfie with me because he was operating on like iPhone settings and I have an Android and I accidentally called him adorable, and immediately wanted to swallow my fucking tongue. Because you don't flirt with people when they're working. That's rude. I paid to... I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. And my point is, it's a whole thing that I would like to no longer have to deal with. And all of this is made worse because I have been recognized at every single concert I've been to in the past year and a half, including 2 of his. And I've been on the Lovejoy Nation podcast twice. So no matter how many times I try to sweep this out of the rug and move on with my life, there's always that little thing in the back of my head saying, there's a non-zero chance. Oh my god. So basically, the way I see it, I finally say fuck it. I make this video. I say it all out loud to the ether that is the internet. Worst case scenario, he sees it. He says, hey, not for me. I move on with my life. It's fine. I'm an adult. Who cares? I'll take a no over uncertainty any day of the week. Neutral option, nothing happens. Oh well, I guess. Best case scenario, you know? Because honestly, it doesn't matter what I'm doing any day ever for the rest of my life. If he was like, hey, do you want to get dinner or something? I'd say yes. Obviously, I'm delusional. It's fine. But at this point, I'm just so over the not doing anything about the things that I want, you know? What's up with that? No one gets anywhere that way. So fuck it. I've said it out loud. What else is there to do at 9 p.m. on a... Is it Friday? I think it's Friday. Anyway. It is what it is, I guess. Okay, love you, bye. Also, I don't have a ring light. I have this flower lamp. It's very yellow, but yellow's my favorite color, so... A win is a win.
I have a very, 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 very low threshold for... Well, this is extremely cringe, and I think that goes without saying. This is very cringe, that goes without saying. I do feel like some of my life force has been drained out of me via trying to continue watching something that is, in my opinion, very uncomfortable. Not just because of the cringe, that's really the tip of the iceberg. What I want to talk about here is a couple of things. So first things first, someone in a comment section says that he has a Tumblr accent. Someone who's still on Tumblr, I've been there for like a decade and a half at this point, yikes. He has a Tumblr accent. And more than anything, the thing is that whenever he tells a story about himself, whenever he speaks generally, it comes off as you're using a fake voice and you're using fake inflections and you're talking about very basic things as if it's lore or as if you just discovered electricity. And that is very, very tiring to me because I've been in classes at school with people who are just like that. Like everything they say is worth $10 million when they literally just said something that is the equivalent of water is wet. Now, that is my personal hangup, okay? That's not a point against Tyler, but I have a feeling that I'm not the only person who thinks that, and that immediate unlikable thing makes it so much harder to give someone the benefit of the doubt. So I think it's worth mentioning for that reason primarily. Beyond Mr. Quirky, let's draw a mustache on our finger type vibe, he says that he's worried it's gonna turn into something parasocial, whatever the fuck is going on with him and Wilbur, notably nothing. I fear it's already become parasocial because the moment you feel comfortable enough, and that's one thing I'll say, I'm so jealous of this man's confidence. I mean, confidence that's really a lack of self-awareness, but anyway, the confidence is absolutely insane. A lot of his comments are people saying, I need to be this confident, or oh my god, I can't believe you're this confident, considering. It has already crossed into parasocial territory the moment you decided to announce to the world, whoever has access to your TikTok, me unfortunately, that you have a crush on this man. You don't know his sexuality. You talked for 7 minutes, I believe you said it was. And in those 7 minutes, you made an impression, I'm sure, an impression of sorts. A positive one is very unlikely, but you'll be remembered for better or for worse, I guess. This is already parasocial. There is no aspect of anything that you said that's not parasocial. And just the act of having a crush on a content creator or someone you don't know that's on the internet, in my opinion, is already parasocial because realistically, you should have some kind of guard in place, some kind of parameter, some kind of blocker that makes it so it would be impossible for you to develop a crush on someone that you don't know. And listen, If it's a light, silly crush, like you think someone's really attractive and really funny, that's no big deal. I'm talking about a crush that involves you screaming from the rooftops that you have this crush, but beyond that, the concept of being comfortable with voicing it is also, to me, concerning and parasocial, because most people wouldn't say, oh yeah, I have a crush on this content creator and they're so great and so adorable, and in our 7-minute conversation, most people have enough self-awareness and social awareness to not put anyone in that position. But beyond that, to some extent, I think it's a sign of immaturity, because you are crushing on your projection. You're not crushing on the actual person, right? And listen, even if you watch every single video someone posts, even if you have been following them for a decade, you have an idea of who someone is, and the stuff that you don't know, you're likely to project. And that goes for everyone, right? If you don't like someone and there's a part of their life that you don't know about, you may very well tend to believe the worst because you don't like them, so you're going to try and fit the patterns, right? The same way, if you like someone, you'll find these amazing, cool things they do because they're great and amazing and the best person ever. That much is normal, right? But that much is normal when you actually know the person. Because you meeting someone once and then watching their content or listening to their music or following them means fuck all, especially, and Tyler Catastrophe, I think, is 25. I'll correct myself if I can find it, but he's not far off from my age. So like it bewilders me that at our big age, this is still something we're doing. And this is something we're doing without limiting ourselves in terms of the moment you felt comfortable to tell the world that you have a crush on someone that you talked to for 7 minutes who is accused of being an abuser. The moment you did all of that would be a huge wake-up call for most people to step back and be like, okay, do I know who I'm talking about at all? The answer is no. You don't. And people are also finding a massive irony here, because as someone who seems to be an activist for the LGBTQ plus, for, I can only assume, feminism, for all these things, so we're not believing the victim here because it's not convenient. I cannot say enough how absolutely frustrating I find his demeanor and his insistence on being quirky for the sake of being quirky. My tolerance for things like this, my patience for things like this, is extremely low, hence why I wanted to avoid talking about this, because I feel like it's very easy for me to be mean when I have this sort of frustrating overstimulation, let's just put it that way. So this crush that he has on Wilbur has become a very big part of his identity, because clearly it wasn't the necklaces or bracelets that were going viral, right? There's not much to go viral there. His obsession with his crush with Wilbur is really the big thing. So there are multiple videos where he is addressing this in different ways, but kind of saying the same nothing.
I do know there's a difference between embarrassing and morally wrong, right? They're not the same thing. Because, oh my god, it is so not that serious. Is it embarrassing to publicly admit that you have a crush on someone? Yes. Is it also embarrassing to admit the person you have a crush on has a larger following than you do? Yeah, sure. But having a crush and feeling emotions about a person you don't know is not inherently wrong. I'm not out here writing self-insert fanfiction or building a shrine to our love in my fucking closet. I said that I had a crush on a guy who I do not know, and that we met one time, made eye contact, and it gave me butterflies. I said it in a way that wasn't strictly literal, because I'm an artist and a poet, and I like to say the pretty words, and y'all are out here acting like I trained an AI chatbot to talk like him. And for the record, we are strictly against AI in this house, just so you know. But are y'all really so online that you forgot that being human is allowed? Yes, he's successful, and there are other people who want him, and he has a larger following than me, and I've had a crush on him for more than a couple years. But he is just a guy. He is just a guy. And yes, having a crush on him makes it hard for me to have a crush on literally anyone else, because he is proof that all the qualities I want in a partner exist as one coherent person. And why the fuck would I want to settle for someone who doesn't have those qualities when I know that those qualities exist? But I'm not out here saying that he's the only person who's allowed to date me. He's the only one who's allowed to try, and if I just wait long enough, he'll fall in love. No! If he asked me out, I would say yes. That is all I said. Having a crush might be embarrassing, but it is not weird, it is not wrong, it is not stripping someone of their rights. It is looking at a person and saying, hey, I really like that person. It would be cool if they liked me too. And that is all it is. It's fine. This is disgustingly parasocial. Do you know what parasocial means? Do you? Because having a crush on someone is not inherently parasocial. Convincing myself that he also has a crush on me and that he wants to marry me, that would be parasocial. Because I don't fucking know the guy. And that's not what I fucking said. But the thing that really gets me is that everything I said in that video, I have said several times in other videos. I just didn't put a name to it. And the second I put a name to it, y'all start acting like I'm an obsessed stalker who knows everything about him and is following him around the town. Oh my god. I just have to keep reminding myself that so much of the internet is teenagers who don't know anything of the outside world other than, like, their school, their house, and their little sphere of the internet. And, like, I get it. There's nothing wrong with that. We've all been there. But oh my god, y'all are frustrating. Just scroll. Just move on with your lives. And just before I end this video, I would like the record to show that not only do I have more followers now than he did when I first found his content, but also I know who I am. And I know I can pull. And thinking to myself, hey, I bet if this guy knew me, he'd probably like me back. If there's a chance. Is also not parasocial. It's just thinking. I am going to eat this lamp. Y'all. Stop it! Oh my god! I will be 27 in a month, and I pay my own bills, and I live in my own apartment, and at least a third of my job is making videos on the internet and embarrassing myself for fun. I know the difference between right or wrong, and I know where to stop before the bit becomes weird. Okay, love you, bye. And I say that at the end of every video. I know one of you is gonna pretend that's weird. It's not parasocial to have an outro. This is basically my emotional support lamp now. We're all suffering.
Now he's also suddenly a poet, which... okay, sure, whatever. There are a couple of things here worth noting because I don't think Tyler knows what the definition of parasocial is, because parasocial, sure, you're not stalking him. Okay, great, though you are moving to where he lives for apparently no other reason other than you want to move there, which most people have a bigger reason than that. Some people are assuming it's because he lives there. So anyway, moving on from that. The fact that you, when you have a crush on someone, like this crush, you aren't interested in dating anyone else, you're not interested in anyone else, I fear that makes this parasocial in my books. Why? Because this isn't a crush like I could say, oh my god, I have a crush on Lana Del Rey, because I love Lana Del Rey, I always have. Okay, but I'm not out here shutting down any potential crush. Like when I first met my boyfriend, I didn't shut that down because Lana Del Rey exists and that's my crush and therefore everyone else is excluded. Because if you view it that way, another way to put it would be, okay, Tyler has a crush on Wilbur, and basically it's almost like you're either waiting for that crush to pass for your life to go on, romantically speaking, or you're what? Waiting for Wilbur to discover that you exist and then magically be interested and then happily ever after? Because that to me is parasocial, because your life is taking a different trajectory because of this person or because of your interest in this person. That to me is parasocial, because it's not just a hee hee ha ha crush of like, this guy's cute, this guy's funny, whatever. This is, I am not looking at anyone else romantically because I'm looking at him romantically. And if you don't see that as a problem, I think we have a bigger problem still, because anything that is changing the trajectory of your life is actually a big deal. So as much as you're saying this is a nothing burger, it would be a nothing burger except for the things you said that turned it into something. Again, is it the end of the world? No, but surely you cannot be surprised that people are critiquing you because you are crushing, if not obsessed with, because honestly, I feel like having this type of crush, you need to be really invested, because I don't know how you'd keep that up. Someone you don't see on a daily basis, someone that you don't know, someone that you've talked to once, like for most people, I feel like that would fizzle out, or it would have stayed a casual crush, like, oh, this person's a cutie, this person's funny, whatever, right? The kind of casual crush where your life is not affected by them in any grand way, whereas here it is, because you can't be interested in anyone else according to your own words. Beyond that, it's funny to me that he also says that a lot of people on the internet are teenagers, because to be quite frank, your behavior is quite teenager coded if we're really going to go there. These are the types of crushes that teenagers have. People who are close to 30, usually this is not how they operate. And that's fine, do your own thing. But again, you're coming on the internet, you're talking about your private life. If you don't want the opinions, don't share that. And I know that that sounds harsh, and I know that the internet is mean as fuck. I'm here. But realistically, that is how it goes. That's why people like myself and others choose to share very little about our private lives, because guess what? It's not up for debate, and I'm not accepting comments. So,
I said I have a crush on a guy in a band who I do not know and have met once. And because I was not strictly literal in a video that was for entertainment, I have somehow become the target of a weeks-long ridiculous smear campaign that frankly I don't want to understand. And while part of me knows that it's probably smart to just hope it dies out, it just keeps getting worse, so I'm gonna say some shit. I am not the one stalking comment sections hoping to see someone I do not know. You are. I am not the one making fake accounts to stalk someone I do not know. You are. I am not the one making money off of lying and talking about someone I do not know. You are. I am not the one writing fanfiction and making edits and drawing fan art and using AI to make slop of people I don't know kissing. You are. I'm not the one pretending to be related to someone just to spread lies. You are. I am not the one wishing death and torture and rape and worse on someone I do not know just because they said they had a crush. You are. And I am most certainly not the one using AI to try and convince people on the internet that someone I have never interacted with is a pedophile. That's 100% on you. I said that I thought a guy was hot and funny and interesting in a video where I was not strictly literal. And then I said that because I am confident and like myself, that maybe he would like me if he gave me a chance, if he was interested in men, because again, I don't know his sexuality. I do not care where he lives. I do not care who he's seeing. I do not care what he does for fun in his free time, because it has no effect on my life. I have a physical type. He happens to be that type. I have very high standards. I do not want someone who does not meet that standard. That is all I fucking said. And right now, the only reason most of my videos are still up is because I do not want to give people more room to lie. Clearly, all of those videos have missed such a large mark. I don't know how we got here. I don't want to know. But at this point, I have spent my entire life overcoming things that most people would never even have to imagine. And I spent a ridiculously long time being just the scapegoat for everyone around me. So I know that there are people who have no interest in the truth, no matter how big it is. And I know that there are people who will post anything that gets views. Consequences be damned. I actually left the creator program months ago because I didn't like the incentive it gave to, like, trigger people and start rage bait, and it's stupid. I don't like it. So really the only thing I have to say to the people who are using my name to get views and make money in a way that is not true and is very deceptive, I hope you plan to donate every single cent that you have made off of misrepresenting my character and using my name for views. To the ACLU, to Planned Parenthood, to the people of Palestine or Lebanon or the Congo or Sudan, to Indigenous or Black Lives Matter charities. You have a lot of options, because frankly, every other problem on Earth right now is bigger and more important than a guy who has a crush on another guy. And while it would be nice to have a little more money, because I have goals of my own to work towards, I want absolutely nothing to do with any of that money. And otherwise, I hope you end up regretting every single cent you have made off of misrepresenting me, because I am a good person. I am kind, and I do not deserve any of this. I believe that other people are mostly good. I believe that people can change when they have motivation to do so. And I hope that you all learn from this in the future, because there's really nowhere else to go. I do not like being angry. And I am angry that I have been pushed to being angry. But I am angry. I'm angry for a lot of reasons. Angry to the point of tears, because I have so many worse problems than this, and somehow we are still here. My birthday is this month, and as of that day, I will have been in pain for 7.5 years. Even in my dreams, I am in pain, because someone hit me with their car at around 50 miles an hour, and I decided to keep living after it. I will be in pain for the rest of my life, and I have fought like hell to build a life that is worthy of that pain, and worth going through it. And with everything else that I have chosen to survive, I don't think any of you deserve to make me regret that decision. So if you are only here hoping to see me crash and burn, go fuck yourself. And if you're here trying to see if what you've heard is true, it's not. You can look at everything I've said. I've left it all up. I stand by what I've said. Because even the worst thing they could find on me was me saying that they should think and consider carefully before allowing themselves to be used as an internet attack dog on behalf of people they do not know. Because there will always be information you do not know. And I stand by that 1000%. Not sorry. And to Will Gold, On the off chance that you see this, personally, kind of hope you haven't seen any of it, but to you, I am sorry, because clearly, this has gone so fucking far, and I didn't intend any of it. This whole thing sucks, and I don't like it. But other than that, I have no other apologies. Because I have nothing to apologize for. So yeah, that's where we are now. I will continue working towards my goals. I will continue focusing on my business and the things that I love. And other than that, who fucking cares? Who fucking cares? Oh my, why does this matter to you? I don't even know how to end this video. Okay, bye. The flower lamp reappears. Fun times.
So this one was a hard watch for me because to some extent I feel bad for Tyler, mainly because here I could be wrong, it could be allergies. It looks like he has tears in his eyes. I don't think threats, especially death threats, I don't think making things with AI, which I don't really know what he's referring to exactly, but making fake images of someone is out of line and of, so whatever happened, inappropriate regardless. So it was a hard watch because to some extent I feel bad, right? Because like this seems to be an unfortunate all-around situation. However, that feeling bad does not nullify the fact that, again, is this the biggest issue on planet Earth? No, but this is the internet and you shared something, and like I said earlier, whenever you share something on the internet, for the most part, it will bite you in the ass at some point, even if it's just people being annoying and stupid about something that's not that deep. Is this that deep? No, it's not that deep in the sense of you are a guy who has a crush on another guy. Yes, that's not that deep. You are correct. However, what is more deep is the fact that you brushed off any kind of abuse allegation because you like this guy and he's your type and he supposedly has the qualities that you like, even though you don't actually know him, so you don't actually know if he has those qualities. But I digress on that. Discounting someone's abuse does come with bigger consequences. So here you are on the pedestal you've put yourself on, telling us who are either viewing videos of you commenting or making videos on you, you're saying that we need to donate all this money to the ACLU, the Sudan, Congo, I can't remember where else, right? Which, I mean, fair enough, I guess, though you are the person who put this information online. So when you say that people are lying or are being deceptive in some way, sure, I'm sure there are people who are doing that, who are misrepresenting, who are making the AI images, whatever else happened. I don't know. I haven't seen any of that I know of. However, people using your own TikToks to talk about this situation, much like I am now, is by no means misrepresenting a situation. I'm using only your words and reacting only to your content firsthand. No middleman, no other interpretation other than what you're saying to my ears, and then I respond. So it's interesting to me to frame all of this from this kind of virtue signal-y position of, I hope you donate all this money. I would never take this money. I'm not even in the creator fund anymore. Which, okay, so you're not in the creator fund anymore and you're mentioning this, so what? It shows that you have virtues? It shows your morality and ethics? What was the purpose of that? What was the purpose of mentioning charities? What are we trying to do by saying all of that? Because the way I was raised and where I'm from, if you're donating to a charity, you don't have to announce that. In fact, it's always been considered rather gauche to actually mention, oh, by the way, I gave this money away. I did a good deed. I helped an old lady cross the road. Like, what is that for if not points from the public to make you seem like a better person? So that is another part actually of what I think makes him unlikable, beyond the lack of self-awareness and confidence that I think is a little bit over the top, to be honest, because there's such a thing as self-confident, and then there's such a thing as someone who is kind of pompous about it. What was the point of you telling us that? Because the reality is, it looks like you're trying to make yourself look good, question mark, as opposed to us. Like, we're trying to make the clear division between Tyler, good guy, and then us commentators, people of the internet, bad guy. Which obviously is an oversimplification, to say the very least. But again, this is the type of behavior that I think fuels people not just disliking him and critiquing him from the outside like I am now, but people sending the death threats. Am I blaming him for him getting death threats? Of course not. But if I'm trying to trace why that may have happened, certainly being talked down to in this particular manner does not help, especially when you are the one under fire because you are crushing on someone who has been linked to abuse. So I don't really know how many ways around that you want to try and find, but once someone has been linked to abuse, it's very difficult to get away from that. And on top of that, it's very difficult for that stigma to melt away from anyone around that person, right? So you having a crush on him doesn't mean that you are an abuser, but effectively what you're doing in the eyes of the public is linking yourself to an abuser. So I don't know why we're having such a difficult time understanding that concept, because to me, it seems pretty obvious.
Seen the guy moving halfway around the world just to be closer to a YouTuber? If y'all think I would make a massive, life-altering decision that takes years of work to achieve, just because I was willing to admit on the internet that I think a musician I don't know has a pretty laugh, then y'all really have the wrong idea. And I suppose you have a better explanation? I was supposed to move to Bournemouth a couple years ago. I had a job lined up, I did a ton of research, made a ton of preparations, admittedly got a little too excited because it ended up falling through at the last minute. But when I finally dusted myself off and got myself back on track, and decided I could probably just move out of the US on my own, England was the easiest choice because I had already done so much of the work. But why Brighton specifically? But when I visited England and met the people I had hoped to be working with, I completely fell in love with the South Coast. I've always wanted to live near the ocean and it's gorgeous. And Brighton is a really popular city right now. I've got a bunch of friends and support in the area, and like with most college towns, it's got a thriving art and music scene. And people keep telling me it's the gay capital of the UK, which I think is hilarious. You expect me to believe that's the only reason? I mean... I'm sure I'm not the only guy in the world who would let his decision to move somewhere be influenced by a sports team. And why would you like their football club if not for a crush? I grew up in the sport. My whole family played, we helped run a non-profit youth club, I was a referee for 6 years. And when it comes to the Premier League, most of the other teams, Chelsea, Arsenal, Bournemouth, Leicester City, to me they all play like assholes. They time waste, they flop, they play dirty. Brighton actually plays the game. I mean, I could talk about how Verbruggen, Van Hecke, Weaver are pretty much the sole reason I have a paid fan club membership to the Netherlands national team. I could talk about how Matoma is such an ace fucking striker he literally has a PhD thesis that he wrote about dribbling. Or how the last transfer window broke my fucking heart because we lost Estupinian, who was my favorite, Lamptey, and Adingra. I actually think you should stop talking. Did you know that the head coach, Fabian Hertzler, was born in Houston, Texas? I really don't like you. Yeah, that's fair.
This particular TikTok, I think, is a great example of what I was talking about before, about being pompous and unlikable. Now, listen, I've not been in the situation Tyler's in, thank you God, but however, this is not the way to this is a bad PR move. Let's just put it that way. This is a bad PR move, because if you look at this the way an outsider like myself looks at this, it actually all checks out. So we have someone, you, Tyler, here on TikTok saying that you make necklaces and that you have this crush on this creator. This creator is Wilbur. He happens to live in England. And then without much context, you then tell me that you want to move to England. What connection of the dots could I possibly make? Do I know your life inside and out? Prior to this video, did I know that you like their football teams, their soccer teams? I did not know, so the only connections I can make are based on what you put out there. The same way that if you look at me, do you know what my favorite soccer team is? Do you know that I have a favorite player that's in Juventus? Do you know that I'm a huge fan of Buffon and I have been since I was a kid? Like, are these things you know? Oh no, because I didn't tell you. Okay, so now that we've decided that not everyone on planet Earth is a Tyler Catastrophe historian, it's actually not that weird that people would assume that that was why. Because you talk about this massive crush you have on this guy and the 7-minute interaction you had, then you talk about moving to England. We don't know that you have a circle in England. We don't know that you had a job that fell through, which is also something we can talk about in a secondary video if you're interested. But the gig with that is that it has been allegedly shown that he never actually had a job offer. He just misinterpreted what someone told him when he went to a shop when he was in England, apparently, but it never was actually a job offer. So even that, anyway. So I don't understand how Tyler doesn't understand that the way he is communicating and what he decides to share dictates how we react. Like, you know that, right? So when you're complaining that people are misinterpreting, sure, the internet loves to misinterpret, but also let's ask ourselves, are we communicating the best way we can? And what are we sharing? And what image does that create of us? Because surely You can't talk about having this crazy crush on someone who has all the qualities you want, and then you tell us you happen to be moving to where he lives. What other information am I supposed to go off of?
Been following me for a while, chances are you actually know who I am and you don't need to hear this. But for the new people, I have posted thousands of videos over the past, 7 years? About myself, about my work, about the things that I believe in. And sometimes that means saying shit that other people disagree with. And right now, Twitter wants you absolutely obsessed with misinterpreting less than 10 of them. And the thing about trying to tell people who someone is that doesn't really hold up when that person has been showing you who they are for 7 years. And all of those people who want to see you frothing at the mouth, sending hate comments and death threats, do not know who I am. And they certainly haven't seen enough of me to know. I put beads on a string for a living and I talk to my phone, and I have never been anything but kind, respectful, and compassionate. A little bit sassy now and then, but who isn't? Look at any of my other videos, look at how I interact with people in the comments, because if there's one thing staying completely consistent, it's that I'm not horrible. You can disagree with me, you can not like me, you can believe whatever you want to believe about me, but I will not believe it for you. I stand by what I said because I know I'm coming from a place of integrity and experience. The only person I'm obsessed with is me because I'm amazing. And sitting here expecting me to bend, to pretend to be someone I'm not just so that you can justify the way you're treating me, is simply not how I do things. So whether you're here about a video about a crush that I exaggerated for entertainment purposes, or from a 2-year-old video where I encourage people to think for themselves and consider that there's a lot of information they don't know, in a situation where the worst accusation was biting, and the person doing the accusing said herself it was consensual, because I personally believe that that's something that someone can learn from and grow from and be better from in the future, the only thing I have to say is that it's okay to disagree with me. It's okay to think I'm wrong. It's okay to think I'm weird because we don't agree. But if that handful of videos is all you have ever seen from me, and the only thing you've ever actually cared to see, you do not know me. You do not know who I am, you do not know what I stand for, and you do not get to decide what is true about me. If you would like to see more, I encourage you to do so. I have a lot to offer. But if you cannot reciprocate my kindness and respect, then you don't deserve to have access to me. And that's just how it is. So I will be returning to my regularly scheduled content because I love my job and I love my people. And however obsessed Twitter wants you to think I am, just know they are so much more. Oh my god. Anyway, it's like midnight and I need to turn the heater off. It is so hot in here. I'm gonna go do something else. Okay, love you, bye. And to everyone who actually follows me and wants to see me win and actually knows who I am as a person, words cannot say how much I appreciate you. Y'all are getting me through this, but I promise this too shall pass. They really can't say anything I haven't heard before. It's been a long life.
In this TikTok, what Tyler is referring to specifically, and we'll watch it in a second, is the TikTok video where he basically defends Wilbur, saying that abuse is not always that clear cut. And I'll just show you the video because I don't want to put any words in his mouth or give you an impression that is other than exactly what his words are with his meaning and his mannerisms. However, when he's saying that, we don't all agree and we don't know him, that's all fair. And I think that actually should stay at the forefront of people's minds, because I do think, much like Tyler might feel about Wilbur, that he knows Wilbur or likes Wilbur, and Wilbur has the qualities he likes in a person, which you wouldn't really know because you don't know the person, much like we don't know you. But I digress from that fun parallel. The fact remains that this isn't just a difference of opinion, because a difference of opinion, if you didn't know what he was referring to, you'd think that maybe he said that he likes pancakes and you like waffles and boo-hoo, we don't agree. A difference of opinion in certain cases is actually a deal breaker, much like with some people it's politics, right? If you're on one side or the other side, for some people, that is a strict cutoff. There are some moral and ethical questions that I have a problem with and are a make or break. Namely, being a pedophile, guess what? For me, that's a make or break. There are things that will make you shut someone out completely because of their behavior. You having a crush on someone who was accused of abuse, for the people who believe that abuse happened, that can be a make or break, and that is a completely fair thing. That's not just a silly waffle versus pancake disagreement. That is a moral and ethical disagreement, which touches on some of the, I think, basic tenets of being a decent human being, namely not abusing anyone. So to boil it down to disagreement, I think, is a vast oversimplification, but I digress on that. Now, let's see the video where he actually, quote unquote, defends Wilbur or tries to debunk the abuse situation. You'll just see.
I do not think that Wilbur Soot is an abuser, and I know I've said that fairly indirectly in the past, especially recently,
but I do feel like now it needs to be said point blank. Cancel culture is bullshit. And I'm not talking about holding people accountable for their awful actions, because obviously we should be doing that. I'm talking about how many people are training their audiences to be internet attack dogs, which is not cool. And right now, it's really hard to be on the internet. Feels like every other day we're getting someone who's secretly a terrible person. But I'm starting to realize that a lot of people don't know the difference between fucking up and abusing people. And as someone who has been abused, kind of a lot, I'm gonna explain the difference. Because if you don't know the difference, there are a lot of people who will try to use you as a weapon against the people they don't like. And I don't know about you, but I don't like being used for anything. So if you find yourself asking, is this person an abuser, or did they just fuck up somehow? Here are some questions that you should always ask. The first question's a little gray, but it has to do with intention. Did they knowingly hurt you on purpose? And if you know for a fact that they did it on purpose, then yeah, that person sucks, they're an abuser. But if you can't be sure they knew they were hurting you, you have to ask yourself another question. This one's a two-parter. One, did you tell them it hurt you? Because if you didn't, I'm sorry, you have to. You can't assume they know unless you tell them. But after you tell them, you have to ask, how did they respond to you telling them? Did they get angry? Did they blame you? Did they hurt you more? Did they try to shut you up somehow? Then yeah, unfortunately, probably an abuser. Or did they find out that they hurt you and apologize? Did they validate your feelings? Did they promise to change? Did they make genuine efforts to better themselves towards you and people around them? Because in that case, they're probably just someone who fucked up. And I'm not giving you this information because I think that someone specific deserves to be absolved of all crimes or something. I'm giving you this information because as someone who has been abused more times than I'd like to tell you about, I still believe that everyone deserves a chance to be forgiven. And with all the time and energy we spend hoping people in our lives will change, you cannot hope for that without allowing them to change when they realize they've fucked up. And if you want people to be better, you have to let them try to be. And unfortunately, the elephant in many of these discussions is that it's really easy to lie. And also, it's really easy for someone to vastly exaggerate when they're mad at someone. That's just humans at this point. So if someone you don't know on the internet is telling you something about someone else you don't know on the internet, please just take a step back, take a deep breath, ask yourself some questions. Because chances are, you don't have all the information. And it's okay to wait to form an opinion until you do have more information. I know no one tells you this very often, but making a snap judgment immediately is dangerous for a lot of people. So don't be an internet attack dog for people you don't know. Especially if you're a teenager. I promise you're gonna regret that later. Be kind to each other. Think critically.
So we're removing all the responsibility from the abuser. Hold on. So if I were in an abusive situation and the person I'm dating breaks my jaw, I need to tell them that they hurt me by breaking my jaw, or else they won't know. They won't know that they fucked up or it was wrong. Listen, if you are in a sexual kind of encounter and you're uncomfortable, yes, you definitely should voice it, right? Because sometimes, yes, someone might not know that they're crossing your boundaries. Sure. However, there are certain behaviors that are obvious boundary crossings which you shouldn't need to be notified about. Like biting someone and biting someone so hard that they have marks after, that should be something you, if this is consensual as you claim, you should be asking the person, hey, is it okay if I do this? It shouldn't be the other person who says, hey, by the way, you biting me and me not being into it, I wasn't into it. I feel like there are definitely some more nuanced situations within the umbrella of abuse. There are things that are not obvious to everyone. Certainly there are difficult aspects of the conversation, okay? However, that being said, it is wild to me that you're flipping this conversation and turning it into, instead of saying there should be good communication about our boundaries in case someone doesn't know where to draw the line, sure, you should have a conversation about boundaries at any given point in a relationship because yes, it's good to know where someone has their hard limits. That being said, you also can't infantilize or remove responsibility from a grown adult so much to the point where, Wilbur couldn't think that biting someone really hard and giving them bruises or making them bleed or whatever the case may be an issue? It's never occurred to anyone. Anyone who's into BDSM, much like I was when I was younger, knows that, first of all, you need safe words, knows that you have conversations about what you're doing. Like, there's so much stuff that you just clear, so then it's not a necessary conversation after. You do everything before acting on it, so then guess what? We're all good, everything's clear, we know what's okay and we know what's not. To not ask when you have particular kinks, let's put it that way, is insane, and that's not the responsibility of the person enduring whatever kink you're into. This entire conversation is wild because to some extent I agree. I don't think you should blindly believe anything you hear in the sense of an abuse claim because yes, people sometimes lie about abuse, sure, it's happened. So I do think you should keep your head on your shoulders and listen to what is being said, much like with anything else. Listen to what is said from both sides, see the evidence and decide based on that. So yeah, don't be a fucking idiot, sure. However, to discount what was said because you claim that you've been abused and therefore that gives you some higher knowledge, I don't know, is so bewildering and so insensitive and silly that I barely know what to make of all that, to be honest. Like, it's pretty gross. Also, because the question that comes up is, if it had been anyone else committing this alleged abuse, if it were anyone else but Wilbur, would his opinion still be the same? If we replaced Wilbur with Joe Schmo, are you going to defend Joe Schmo in the same way or no? Because I tend to think no, and I tend to think that this is treatment based on the fact that you have a crush and that there's an obvious bias. Because this entire take to me was insane. And that's saying something, because most of the time it's already an unpopular take when I say that we should hear out every side of the story and look at the evidence. It's crazy that looking at the evidence now is controversial, but I would agree until there. But when you go farther than that, saying you gotta notify your abuser that they're abusing you, to some extent, like I said, in certain situations, yes, but overall, that's part of being an adult and having responsibility over your actions. As much as I don't agree with death threats and all of that, I definitely understand where there is room for critique here, because a lot of what has been posted from Tyler has been, honestly, it sounds kind of cognitively dissonant, because you can't come out here and talk about the harassment you're supposedly receiving and talking about that being also kind of teary-eyed and then turn around and call someone else's abuse either something that didn't happen or something that isn't real or something that was overemphasized. Like, you can't do both, because it seems at the very least hypocritical, but more than anything it's lacking in self-awareness, because you don't know any of these people, right? So, like, do I know that the abuse happened? No. Do I know that Wilbur's a great person? No. Do I know that he's a horrible person? No. I don't know any of this. So what I can say is, based on what I've seen, he doesn't look like a great guy. Do I know? No. And I think that that's a part of the internet you need to accept. The same way you're telling everyone, we don't know you, you don't know them. A 7-minute hangout, if you want to call it that, with someone doesn't mean you know them. And it doesn't mean you know them well enough to know what the deepest, darkest parts of them hide. You have no idea. So this entire conversation feels circular, because it's like, you make statements online that are controversial, then you're wondering why it's controversial, and then you're wondering why you're getting harassed, and then you're defending a supposed abuser, and then you come back and wonder why you're harassed. We're going in circles. It's all very obvious. It's all right in front of you, and yet. Anyway, you guys can let me know what you think in the comments down below. This has been truly quite the shit show. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons as always, and I'll catch you guys next time.